Welcome to this session on conscious food systems, cultivating inner capacities for regenerative food systems. So we are very happy to be part of this Oxford Real Farming Conference. It's a wonderful, very rich event, and we are glad to present our work and start engaging with you. I'm Thomas Legrand, connecting from France next to a mindfulness practice center called Plum Village. And I'm the lead technical advisor for the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, convened by UNDP, United Nations Development Programme. So the Conscious Food Systems Alliance supports people from across food and agriculture systems to cultivate the inner capacities that activate systemic change and regeneration. So today in this 1 hour session, we will have a short presentation on our work with the as a Conscious Food Systems Alliance, which will be followed by a panel discussion on the role of inner capacities for regenerative food systems, with 3 of our key partners implementing this vision at the grassroots level in Brazil, Egypt, Cameroon, and even more globally. Then we'll have some final remarks and conclude with a short video of our Conscious Food Systems Alliance, or COFSA as we say, manifesto. But before we do so, we'll start, as always in our meeting, with a centering practice led by our dear elder Joshua Konkankoh. Joshua is the director of Better World Cameroon and founder of the Barefoot Eco Village in Cameroon. He is a respected indigenous elder, a permaculture educator who has guided the transition to more resilient ways of life in many African villages in collaboration with the Global Eco Village Network. And Joshua is currently based in Portugal, and he has been really a key partner in COFSA. So Joshua, over to you. Thank you.
I can hear, but I cannot see. My camera is stopped. If someone can open my camera. So if you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, but you cannot see me. So we can have a grounding without being seen. If the host can start my video.
Okay.
Cool. So my intention is to take us on a short journey through which we can together connect with the natural world in a heart-to-heart level, and maybe also set a flow and synergy under which our discussions and ideas can find some soft landing in the universe. Since we are in a context of real farming, hopefully these words can open a small window in our minds, such that although we are in a Zoom room, we can attempt another rhythm of immersion, of groundedness. Groundedness in nature and groundedness in ourselves. Maybe call it going back to the Garden of Eden, where the creation of real farming started. Or maybe a journey into the virgin forest. In this case, as African, I would call it going to the spiritual forest. Now, in this year, 2023, we are able to hold hands together under a great baobab tree in the spiritual forest. Behold the immensity and the power of this great baobab tree. We also call it the power of the ancestors. And imagine her telling us to be silent. And inhale to absorb the energy of the woods, to activate our senses to full capacity and align our spirit of regenerating leadership. And if we may dare shift our minds to go beyond our 5 senses to a zone 6, into the spiritual space where we are able to reconnect with ourselves. As part of the mycelium of the earth, and experience once again our true nature beyond the physical internet, which today rules only our heads. And maybe we can begin to allow ourselves in this sphere to feel invisible, to feel also the invisible and the interconnectedness of nature, where we lock into this invisible space only using our heart's language. So today's Oxford event seemed to be the place where doors of the 4 directions and of the fourth dimension of our ancestors can be reopened in ceremony. Hopefully we feel this, and we can begin to feel the presence of other beings with us. In this Zoom, I call on the ancestors of the 4 directions of the earth to be here present in our deliberations going forward. From the south winds bearing water in the air to water down our emotions, exploring new routes to the west, where we assume our new roots, the roots for Mother Earth, the roots of responsibility, and the power to make right decisions in correcting human wrongs in the regenerative farming world and for the future. Blown upwards from here, we arrived in north, where our minds are renewed with generosity and grace. To prepare us for this service. the fire of transformation still warm in our hearts, we arrive the East, full of wisdom to feel love, attachment, self-worth, and spiritual interbeing. This journey of real farming is about lighting a new way. Now take a look at the ecosystem of the baobab tree and feel gratitude for the oxygen from the leaves. Feel it in our lungs and listen to the wellspring of our common soul, the divine echo emerging, the visible and the invisible integrating. Imagine all the hearts in this room breathing in synchronicity, because farmers know about cooperation with nature and ancestral wisdom. And with this poise and grace, we have faith to become pioneers of sustainable living through growing food with consciousness. In this roundabout journey between two worlds, we can begin to come back to ourselves and to the business of the day. Over to you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Maybe you can help me my video back on. Thanks. Thank you for reconnecting us with this our spiritual forest, our ancestors, our roots of responsibility, and our interbeing nature and our connection with one another here today. So we will move now to a short presentation on the Conscious Food Systems Alliance. Thank you for the video. Thank you for the screen. Okay, so the Conscious Food Systems Alliance is convened by UNDP, is a movement of food, agriculture, and consciousness practitioners united around a common goal: to support people from across food and agriculture systems to cultivate the inner capacities that activate systemic change and regeneration. Can move to the next slide. Yeah, so that's our COFSA, as we call the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, model of transformation. It's coming from a report that we released in September, that we developed with a lot of our partners to, it's called the Rationale for Action report, to explain, why do we need to work on inner capacities for the transition towards regenerative food systems. And in this report, we explain that there are consciousness approaches that we can, that support the consideration and cultivation of inner capacities into interventions across the food systems. And they integrate consciousness practices, which includes contemplative practices such as, let's say, mindfulness, compassion, nature connection, psychological and cognitive behavioral practices, such as, connection with oneself, inquiry, but also how we come together in transformative space and how we can communicate better, for example, through nonviolent communication, and how we can more generally, integrate all these different dimensions into transformative education and leadership practices, which support more systemic and regenerative understanding. So these consciousness approaches can be applied at 3 levels: individual, group, and institutional to support a shift in consciousness through the cultivation of inner capacities. So we talk about transformative qualities and skills, such as skills that relate, for example, to being, like self-awareness or thinking, how to take perspective, for example, relating, how we connect with one another, collaborating, or acting. These are the categories put forward by one of our key partners, the inner development goals, as examples. But it's also about, more generally, about a change in connection and relationship with ourselves, one another, and nature. And we think that all these, this shift in consciousness is key to support the transition towards regenerative food systems. Can go to the next slide. So we take a whole system approach to food systems transformation, working at the landscape level. You know, how can we support, for example, farmers' mental health? We know it's a big issue. Avoid burnout also for many regenerative farmers and activists. How we can also support the revitalization and strengthening of traditional wisdom. So that's at the landscape level. At the more policy level, how we can approach policy reform processes differently. Maybe starting with a retreat, or from a place of deeper connection with oneself, nature, and the people who will be impacted by our decisions, or maybe through immersion in local communities or in nature. How we can also frame multi-stakeholder dialogues, or we can design container that allows for deeper, more connected, more transformative discussions. And finally, working also on at the supply chain level, on the consumption. You know, how can we support more local traditional food rather than you know, value imported Western food is a big issue. And how we can support the cultural transformation of organizations, whether it is civil service or companies, how we can help evolve the culture of these organizations towards more regenerative cultures. So we four main aspects. So we are a community, and we are supported by a digital platform where people can connect and chat with one another and collaborate. So, and indeed, we want to support the connection of our members and being able to practice together, to also reflect and learn together from each other's experience, and establish partnership and collaborate also to develop concrete applications together for this agenda. And for this in particular, we have developed an incubator of projects to support, you know, testing, experimenting with new approaches for the cultivation of inner capacities for regenerative food systems. In terms of structure, we have alliance members that are convened every 6 months in our alliance gathering, where we update them on the work we do and see how they want to engage and what kind of advice they have for our work. We have also an inner council, which is a kind of steering committee with some, I think, 12 people to steer that initiative, 12 of our partners. And finally, we have the secretariat, which is hosted by UNDP, which I'm part of. So what has been our journey so far? So this work initiated in September 2020. The first year, we always have our year from September to July, and use July, August to recap and prepare for the next phase. So the first year was more about the setting up of the initiative, do some sense making, start with a conceptual design, build a core group of partners, engage partners, and define together our first discussion on our general vision and strategic approach. Then we decided in phase 2, for the second year, to embark in a journey with some 25 core partners in a place we call the breathing room, where we met twice a month to spend some time to really connect at a personal level with our intentions, learn from each other, and start designing, what this Conscious Food Systems Alliance should be about and should look like. We developed together some foundational documents, such as the Rational for Action report I was mentioning, and our manifesto. And we defined, our governance structure and how to go about building this community. From September this year, we have moved to the third phase of implementation. We are launching this community digital platform. We are starting to develop and implement trainings and interventions. We'll have a global annual event in the UK in early April in the UK for members. And we are working actively on fundraising and how to, with an eye to how to scale up this work. So far, as I said, now what are our highlights and achievements? We have a co-creation process that helps us also build a core group of partners. We have done thought leadership to position this agenda. We think we have heard that we are helping to bring legitimacy to this agenda and making easier for people like you to talk about this inner dimension in your organization. So there, the fact that it's coming from UNDP have been seen as very useful, doing some presentations, communication work, etc. We have developed also a potential portfolio of COFSA intervention. We hope to start testing some ideas with some first funding we have just received. We have grown our community to more than 150 people we have been engaged with. We have set up a digital community platform. We have also built a global network of local hubs. These are places when people can develop the inner capacities that are needed, and at the same time, practice farming and be involved in food activities with this inner dimension very core. So we have started to link these different places in the world together, and with a view of learning from each other, but also developing collaboration, including a conscious food learning program with inputs from all of these hubs. And finally, doing this work on communications and setting up a website. So on this website, you have here consciousfoodsystems.org. You can find a lot of relevant information, and in particular, some key foundational documents. This Rational for Action report that was written with key scientists in that really at the leading edge of this reflection on how inner dimensions are important for sustainability and food. We have a collection of case studies. For those more in the academic side, we have also a theoretical foundations report led by Christine Wamsler, whose work is mentioned in the last IPCC report, and which is leading that reflection in the academia. And finally, in our website, you can check how to join our newsletter, but also join the Alliance, the movement, and become an official member by submitting an application form. So we look forward to engaging with you. You'll be able also to contact us by emails, etc. So please sign up, and we look forward to see what we can do together. So that was a short presentation on the Conscious Food Systems Alliance. And now we'll be moving forward with our panel discussion on with key partners at the grassroots level, telling us about their experience in implementing this agenda. So we will start now with Nana Wu. She's a program manager of the SECEM Economy of Love Education program. This is a program which focuses on offering cultural and educational activities to farmers in order to support their personal development. She is originally from South Korea and joined SECEM in 2018 as part of an internship program. Nana is a creative facilitator for inner development and leadership, and is passionate about providing a learning platform where individuals can create new stories out of their old narrative. And she's based in Egypt, where SECEM operates. So over to you, Nana. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. So yes, my name is Nana Wu. I'm originally from South Korea. I landed in the Holy Land, Egypt, because of this very unique special initiative called SECEM. So before I introduce you about this special place, I would like to ask you, what do you imagine when you think about the country Egypt? When I said Egypt, what do you imagine? Maybe some people could be pyramid or ancient Egypt civilization, or Pharaoh, Cleopatra, Islamic religions, or beautiful Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, many vast natures. But now, has anyone imagined an image of desert? Now I invite you all to imagine the desert land. Just brown, light brown, dry sand dune. Above there's a blue sky, and below there's a white, vast desert land. So if you change the next slide, please. So in 1977, the founder of the SECEM initiative, Dr. Ibrahim Aboulesh, when he was looking at the desert land, he dreamed of a community where each community members live in harmony, taking care of environment and growing healthy food for our families, and establishing a business for fulfilling people's needs, a school for children, a medical center for taking care of people's health. He has a vision. This is how SECEM started in 1977. And SECEM means the vitality of sun in ancient Egypt. So 45 years later, we have 2,000 employees working in SECEM initiative, 5 different farmland in Egypt, 5 different factories producing honey, olive oils, herb teas, and organic cotton garments, many other products for people. And we have a kindergarten, school, vocational training. And also 10 years ago, we founded Heliopolis University for Sustainable Development. Now we are serving many, many, many people in this community, around this community in Egypt. And we also support many students and young leaders to co-create sustainable future, not only in Egypt, also in the world. Now, can you imagine like place SECEM in Egypt, in this desert land? Of course, our main title is Greening the Desert, is our main motto. And I would like to, before all this educational program, I would like to share one story, very special story. So in the very beginning, when our founder Ibrahim Aboulesh was, imagining the community, at that time we had a white tent. And I heard this story when I came, and he bought a red tractor and a grand piano. Can you imagine a red tractor? There was like no school and
tractor rojo.
There's a red tractor and a grand piano. So I'm telling you this story because these two symbols is very important development of SECEM. red tractor represent economical growth, agricultural land development, and the black grand piano is for the inner development and human development part. So for him, it was very important. These two sides is from the very beginning implemented to develop this community. So today, I will especially introduce you about the grand piano part, which is called Economy of Love Educational Program. Can you change the next slide, please? So for our founder, from 40 years ago till now, it was very important to build a human relationship as much as environmental development. So all our farmers and all our employees who's working in the factories, distributors, sellers, and customers, everybody in the supply chain, it's very important to build this human relationship among them and also within the family and within the community. So one story, very famous thing is he remembers every single employee's name and their family names. That was how he built the relationship with our employees. And also he always asked not about only work and then farming kind of question. He asked, how are you? And how's your inner development and human development? So with that, our structure is 10% of the working hours of our farmers and other employees we have to dedicate to human development program since the day one in 1977. So all this program lasts 40 years. We have different ways to implement this human development. One is he was giving weekly inspiration like talk. And second is we have also festivals bi-yearly, spring festival and autumn festival for people can see the performance their children is also performing at school. And then we have also now finally Economy of Love educational program. So again, 10% of working hours is dedicated for cultural, social, educational program. So all our employees, from the cleaners, farmers, or PR manager, marketing team, everyone is kind of exposed into this human development program. Next slide, please. You see these pictures, one before, please. Yeah. So in this slide, you can see like it was like 1980s and 90s. So our program include also art program for the painting, movement, and acting. So this also art skill is also developing, connecting the creativity, human development, inner development. So it's also our specialty to include the artistic skill. Of course, in the very beginning, they are asking why we need to do this kind of program as a farmer. But then I have one story. I told one farmers, he said like, why we need to do this kind of art program? And I asked him after 3 months, he can tell me why we are doing this kind of program. And of course, after 3 months, I asked Mohammed Farid, what do you think why we are doing this to farmers? And he told me, Nana, because we are human beings, we need a joy. That's why we need this kind of program to taking care of our well-being. I couldn't imagine like one farmer, simple farmer from Egypt to share this knowledge, but I realized this is all human knowledge to take care of the inner development. Next slide, please. Yes, so our curriculum is divided 4 different dimensions. So we divided, one is the ecological topics, how to connect with the nature. So we draw also the leaves of natural materials. We draw or we make a poem out of it. Or we have economical dimension, how to really sustainable kind of product consumption, why we need to buy also consume this kind of environmental friendly product. And then cultural dimension about inner development and importance of education, also the health, why health is important and mental health is important is under the cultural dimension program. And then finally, 4th one, society dimension is including women empowerment and youth empowerment. So we also educate farmers also for the future generation, how much they have to be friendly with the important message to deliver to the younger generation. So this is 4-dimension kind of curriculum under this Economy of Love education program for farmers, also all employees. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is, I shared already in the beginning, this is very important. Every week, we have all our employees, including farmers and teachers, all community members stand in one circle, and we recite also our verse about healthy society, how important it is. So it was very brief and then short introduction. But if you are interested, we also, our program, we want to develop more. Also, we want to also offer not only in Egypt, also outside of Egypt, and especially global South and different culture. So if you are interested in our community and our program, you can contact COFSA. I think we are also one of the member and also part of our case study. So this is briefly about our community in Egypt, why South Korean ladies dedicated to work and live in this community. So welcome to contact with us. So I think after me, we are moving to Brazil, right? To Teresa. I'm sorry if I was rushing a little bit, but I think I want to also respect the time. So I think I will pass to, we can fly to Brazil, and then maybe I think Teresa is the presenter. So thank you very much for hearing, and then I'm looking forward to connect more with some of you.
Thank you very much, Nana. Maybe I can introduce Teresa very quickly. Teresa is a food activist and an eco-chef. She's a founder and president of Instituto Maniva, an organization that protects and promotes sustainable food systems, traditional knowledge in food, and support the livelihoods of smallholder farmers in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro state, and in the Amazon biome. And Teresa is currently based in Brazil. But to you,
Hi,
Teresa.
hello. My video is also not available. Now, okay. So very, very happy to be here, especially at this time of the year, because we just had a new government and a new perspective, and much more conscious and healthy to the rest of this time coming. So I will tell a little story. I won't go into the details of the program because it's quite detailed. So I would like to talk a little bit about why we did this tapioca kit, which is a workshop with kids, as you can see in the photo. So we know that there's a big need to change. We know now much more than when we started this. You can see by the color of my hair. I started this in 2002. By then we had this idea that people weren't so aware of what they ate, but not only on the nutritious side of it, but also in the ancestrality of food. So for us chefs, food has always many meanings. And for me especially, consciousness has to do with connectiveness. And ancestrality is our big, huge DNA. And if we are not connected to this ancestrality in food, we end up eating like we are doing today in most of the world, like another type of food, foreign food. So I joined the slow food movement in 2001, and I started to realize there was a need to really think about the surroundings of a chef, the surroundings of our activity as a cook. And I had the chance to cook in the very special rural area of Brazil. And then I had my aha moment where I realized that there was this food that was really connected to ancestrality, that was manioc. Manioc has many names: cassava, tapioca, yuca. And it's funny because manioc was a wild tree that was domesticated by indigenous people from the Amazon more than 5,000 years ago. So there is a lot of, there's a big lack of knowledge about the ancestrality of indigenous people in Brazil, indigenous nations. And now, as I said, we have this new government. Lula came back to the government. And for the first time, we have a minister of the indigenous, the ancient popularity of Brazil. We have now a minister that it is an indigenous person. So this way you can see how consciousness is one of the big gaps that we have today in our society. So in order to change this disconnectedness, we need to make actions, and we need to make practices that can connect us, like the one we did today with Konkankoh, like to connect to our bodies, to our thoughts and our feelings. But also we need some actions in many practical ways in society. So Corc is about this. It's about how can we make a big group of practices that are already there, and they are connecting people to their consciousness, either being a consciousness about ancestrality or a consciousness about their being, their body, their feeling, their soul. So what I think is that the reason we started this, so the practice, the tapioca is a four parts workshop. So first of all, we put a big map on the wall. We do it with kids from 7 to 11 in public schools in Brazil. And we put a big map on the wall where we show the world, like a world map. And we talk about the discovery of Brazil. We talk about how Brazil was discovered, because that is what those kids learn in school. Brazil was discovered. And then we question, but was it empty? Like there was no one in Brazil at that time? And they said, no, there were many indigenous people. So it wasn't discovered. It was already populated. So we started to put like little pebbles, one on top of the other, to deconstruct the alienation about colonization, because it may seem that colonization is far away from consciousness of eating, but it's not. For instance, in Brazil, today we eat bread every day, and wheat is not a Brazilian crop. So we import 80% of what we eat every day. It's culturally is something Brazilian, but agriculture is not. So that shows how colonization destroyed many, not only habits, but also farming and agricultural things. So the thing is, the first time is this, and then the second time is about music, is about culture, and we show some music and we play, and we see at the word of the music where the importance of manioc for that singer, for that composer. The third part is the legend, is the spiritual part, is about cosmology of the indigenous people. And there's this legend about the origin of manioc. And so the kids play, that's the picture that you're seeing there in the slide. This is not an indigenous boy, looks like one, but it's not. Maybe his ancestor was an indigenous person, also the girl on the back. So Brazilian is this mix of many different races. So we talk about the legend, the importance of values, indigenous values. And then the fourth part is the cooking part. So in this, the last part is the most difficult one. We teach all those kids, about 3,000 kids has been taught about manioc culture. And we teach them how to cook the tapioca tortilla, how to feel it, and how it's important to eat something that was from the land, something that was culturally related to our country and all that. So we did that once for a very short, it was a 2-hour workshop, and we didn't think it was going to become a program. But the next month, the municipal person called us and said, could you do it again? So we start doing it, and we did it for 10 years. more than 3,000 kids went through it. And we really had some feedback how that changed that everyday lives. For instance, some of those kids had great grandfathers and from that were manioc farmers, and they didn't think about it. They never thought about it. They never spoke about this. And since they did the workshop, they started to be curious about their ancestrality, how those farmers grew manioc, and why were they poor and not rich if it's such an important thing. So this was one of the changes. The other change was the ability to cook. Some mothers came to us and say, listen, for me was very important because I used to come home and I had to cook for the family. Now, when I come home, the kids are already cooking and they want to show us what they cooked. So eating is a very, very powerful thing. Cooking also. The ability of eat and cook ancestral food is a way to bring connectiveness and to bring consciousness. And that's what we want to do in other countries with other staple food that have the same importance for the people of the land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Now we will pass on to Joshua. Tell us about his work in Cameroon.
Yeah, so I started an organization called Better World Cameroon in 1996. At this time, there was already the economic crisis starting in Cameroon. I started the organization because I had been in Nigeria for a food festival and learned that the food sovereignty can actually be restored. I think I want to give a context to how this idea of the organization came about. Because I learned in Nigeria that they had something called National Youth Service Participation. And this was attached to universities, and they were doing mostly agriculture, reconnecting with the land. And then I was coming from this place where there was apathy about agriculture, because at this time, the multinationals had moved in. There was land grabbing. The people were forced to cultivate something called cash crops, which meant that all the hundreds of indigenous foods were lost. Actually, it was banned for farmers to use their own seeds. So there was total chaos in the food system in the country at the time. I happened to be working at the time in the social security in Cameroon, and I was wondering why they couldn't talk about food sovereignty as well, because that was becoming a real problem. So I tried to solve the problem of youth apathy, because they considered agriculture as the poor man's profession. They saw their parents suffering, growing coffee, cocoa, rubber, things that they don't eat. And the children were forced to do this and to forget about food. And this is terrible in a university city where I was, for young people to go to school without eating. So there was a lot of change in the culture. Young people had to sell their bodies or be involved in crime. So this is how we thought that there could be a better way, there could be a better world. And we used the systems that we had grown up knowing in the village, which was just a simple form of backyard gardening. It meant that all the kitchen waste was thrown under the plantains behind the house. And this is where you found vegetables growing freely. You found medicines for all the ailments. So everything was around the house, and this was community. So because it was difficult to talk about farming in another sense, we tried to create an indigenous system from my village, which is called Ndanifo. We probably know about Ubuntu. This was simply trying to bring all young people in the city to come together to find simple problems, solutions to their simple problems, be it about the mosquitoes because they lived in the slums, or be it about how they could deal with the floods in the slums, or how to deal with the mountain of rubbish that was found in the city. So this became attractive to the young people to come together and to start this community garden in the city. So it was registered under an umbrella organization for youth associations so that it could spread. And with the support of the American Embassy, we started to use indigenous systems in the city to promote urban gardening and urban regeneration. And this quickly caught attention because some students from SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies in the UK, came here to do this case study of this project. And then we started to become international, joining the Global Eco-Village Network and dealing with organic farming and bringing our model that we had created based on high-value agricultural products. In order not to oppose government, we had to say we were complementing the farming just by integrating things like ginger, turmeric, moringa within the cocoa farms so that the young people could find a way as a bonus out of the parents' farms, which were ailing, and then getting interested to restart. Then it is then that we started to bring our own form of permaculture to the International Permaculture Convergence. We worked with Global Eco-Village Network and Gaia Education to develop curriculums for these trainings and formed something that we call bioregional EDEs for Africa. EDE stands for Eco-Village Design Education, which is an integral education which takes into account all the issues of life in a holistic way. And I was then called on to introduce ways of counsel, which is where my connection with COFSA, rite of passage, and what initiation to young people growing into adulthood can really bring into a system. So I reinvented our systems thinking, which through this rite of passage was just about developing the capacities of the young people through youth circles, through women's circles, through men's circles, to bring back some values and ethics in community governance. So this is where it became very, very important. Just values like respect for elders, respect for the environment, respect for God, for what we believe in. So this is some of the things that have now caused me to be working in Portugal where we bring this African way of doing business, saying we should talk about trade and not aid, or that we can actually do land regeneration and build food security systems using the indigenous ways. So basically, this is how this organization started and is now spread in Africa and is now operating in Portugal. I would end here.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Really wonderful story you share with us. So that's thank you for all the participants to this session. We look forward to engaging more with you in our Conscious Food Systems Alliance. We have shared the link to our website to become a member and to reach out to us. To conclude this session, I think we will share a short video of our manifesto as Conscious Food Systems Alliance.
Welcome to COFSA, the Conscious Food Systems Alliance. It is now time to unlock food systems transformation for the nourishment of all people and the regeneration of the planet.
Global food systems are at breaking point, and our current policy solutions and technical innovations are not delivering the change we need. To create more regenerative systems, we need to access deeper levers of change.
Crisis begins within us and how we see and relate to the world. While food connects us fundamentally with the earth and with one another, the current global food system is shaped by a deep cultural story of separation that sets individuals apart from other beings and with nature.
This inner disconnection manifests in dysfunctional food systems, hungry children, obesity epidemics, and farmers' despair, extractive production practices, devastated landscapes, and biodiversity loss.
While these issues are embedded in structural inequalities and the disempowerment of the most marginalised stakeholders, they are also rooted in our collective consciousness.
To activate solutions, we must therefore also look within, shifting the collective ways of being, thinking and doing that have produced the current crisis.
The time has come to build the inner foundations of sustainable food systems.
The Conscious Food Systems Alliance, COFSA, is a movement of food, agriculture and consciousness practitioners convened by UNDP and united around a common goal.
To support people from food and agriculture systems to cultivate the inner capacities that activate systemic change and regeneration.
We aim to complement existing approaches, exploring ways to integrate evidence-based consciousness practices such as mindfulness, compassion, nature connection, nonviolent communication, and self-reflection into food systems initiatives.
These practices foster the awareness, connection, and creativity that can unlock structural solutions.
We know that these practices are effective and their value in supporting sustainability at multiple levels is increasingly recognized. We also know that they are not new. Indigenous and traditional wisdom have embraced these practices for millennia within a holistic understanding of food and the natural world.
COFSA offers a full vision on the role of consciousness in food systems transformation. Around this shared purpose, diverse stakeholders are uniting, co-creating, and adapting approaches to their own contexts and learning from each other.
Reconnection begins here. Join a growing community of practitioners exploring pathways toward conscious food systems.
Thank you very much. We look forward to engaging with you. So in a minute, we'll have a space for discussion, questions and answers. But for now, this session is over. Thank you.